You look very colourful.
Yes. Okay, including my head. Fine.
You look a bit like you're going to a pride parade. It's adorable.
Okay, yes, I will say, yeah, that's fine.
Just take it.
Can live with that. Right. So, yeah. Hello and welcome all into the MO podcast. As always, you're here with me, Consummation San.
And me, Atreya.
And today we are going to be talking about ghost towns.
Which one?
One in particular that we've wanted to talk about. Well, you told me to look at it for a while.
Bodie. Stool. That one in the mountains.
It's up north, the Alaskan ghost town. Then
What's it called?
Portlock.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Is that where that bloke's still living? He bought it and he got stuck up there, stranded in the winter.
No, that's California.
Oh.
Yeah, so completely 3,000 miles away. But good.
My bad. They all look the same.
Yeah, well done for guessing. So before we get into that, just like and subscribe as always, please. And we've got a website out there as well, which is the mopodcast.co.uk. Also got a blog or an article going up about another ghost town, which will hopefully run parallel to this one. We'll get all that out this week. But again, we're always putting stuff on there, even though I've not done that for a while. But we try to.
You're on holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was lazy.
Yeah. So yeah, just go like and subscribe. Go over there. Give us all our podcasts are embedded on there, so everything's a one-stop shop over there. But we shall crack on with this one. So, Alaska is a desolate place, and only the hardiest pioneers settle there. So, what would cause these people for an entire town to just up sticks and leave their homes?
State of the council houses.
Yeah, you know what? I've seen some pictures, and some of these houses were a lot better than them.
Well, I rest my case.
Yeah. But before the 18th century, Alaska was inhabited by the Inuits and several Native American groups, mainly the First Nation groups, who lived off the land. They hunted seals, whale, and caribou, and they did subsistence farming up there when there was land able to do it. Now, in the late 1700s and early 1800s, Russian trappers started to move into the area. And as with all colonisers, they brought death and destruction. Yeah.
We're all full of disease, what can we say?
Yeah, I mean, Russians as well. Families were broke up as Russians took members of the native population as slaves. Others were run out of the area, so these trappers could have free run with no one disturbing their business. And their land was taken, and within 2 generations of contact with the Russians, 80% of the Aleut population died of old world diseases because they had no immunity to it. We just came in, gave them chicken pox and shit, and they didn't have any natural resistance to it because they'd never come across it.
And they didn't have chickenpox parties back then, I guess.
Indeed, and definitely no vaccinations. So,
no. Although we all know the vaccinations were just a way of activating 5G and then wiping us all out.
Indeed.
Was that the theory?
Yeah, I think it was, and that's why we need to burn down the 5G towers, because they'll know where we are at any point in time. Especially
to be fair, it's not even that much faster. It's not even that much faster. It's pointless. It's a pointless exercise. If I could just put my phone in 4G mode, just be on the safe side, then I would do it.
I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. My phone can't handle 5G, so
Ant's got a Nokia 3310.
I'm safe. I'm safe at the minute. So in the 1850s, Russia was in need of money after Florence Nightingale and all her nurses had kicked their asses in the Crimean War. I don't know, something happened there, and Florence
You make them sound like warrior nuns or something. Like she just went, right, I'm sick of looking after people now. Get your shields and swords, lasses.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't research it that much. The Crimeans. Florence Nightingale was there. I assume she won.
She wasn't a fighter, dude. She was a nurse.
I mean, lots of nurses who've been serial killers. Look at Harold Shipman, even though he's a doctor. But still.
Okay. I think you're confusing her. I do not think she means what you think it means.
The point's there. Anyway, so Alaska wasn't bringing in the money after the trappers had, as all trappers do, overtrapped the area, with the sea otter population that once held 300,000 otters were left on the brink of extinction. Now, there was also the... Yeah. There was also the issue that there was only about 700 Russians that were actually in Alaska, which is twice the size of Texas. So if anybody like the Americans or the British kind of got a sniff of gold or anything, any minerals that were in the area, and they decamped from the USA or Canada, then 700 Russians ain't going to cut it when you've got two armies coming at you. So
they're pretty inventive.
I mean, they are, but still, like, Britain owned Canada and the United States were thirsty for that gold.
I know, but look at all the UFO sightings in the 50s and the 60s and stuff. People went nuts and they were like, oh my God, we're being investigated by extraterrestrials. Russians have got that technology. It's all Russians. Roswell, Russians, I say.
So, yeah. So after several years of back and forth between the Americans and the Russians, on the 30th of March 1867, Alaska was sold for $7.2 million. In today's money, that would be over 140 million, or about 2 cents per acre back then.
For the whole of Alaska?
For the whole of Alaska.
It's a pretty good deal.
It is, and this is maybe where they fucked up, because between 1870 and 1890, the revenue made on the Alaskan seal fisheries was 4 million more than America actually paid for the state of Alaska. And then...
Very good deal.
Yeah, and that's not even the end of it. And then, in 1896, a gentleman named Sukum Jim was part of a group of prospectors that discovered gold deposits in the Klondike in the Yukon area of Alaska, and this led to the gold rush that would see 100,000 people attempt to migrate to the area in search of their fortunes. Now, over the 3 years that the gold rush lasted, over $1 billion of gold in today's money was mined from the area, but only 30,000 of the 100,000 made it up there, with the rest either turning back or running into misfortune on their way to try and make their fortune.
How nuts do you have to be, though? Because presumably this wasn't the very first gold rush in America. So, like, presumably everybody had heard, like, oh, it's like the Wild West out there. No, quite literally, it is the Wild West. If you get gold, you die. It's as simple as. Unless you're like Billy the Kid or Wyatt Earp, if you come into contact with gold, somebody's going to kill you for it. Why on earth would you be like, I'm going to risk it?
Pretty much. So the Californian gold rush was before this. I think it was like 30 years before this. And this is what kind of kicked the Russians into selling Alaska, because they only had 700 Russians there. They couldn't afford, after the Crimean War, they couldn't afford to put a Russian army there. And they were worried about if any gold deposits were found or any mineral deposits were found, then people would just come in.
It would be lawless.
And they wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
But the first gold rush was in California, which is nice and warm. So this is in Alaska, which is freaking freezing. And you've got mountains, avalanches, snow, moose, and all that shit. And now you've got a gold rush going on, which obviously brings mafioso.
Murderers.
And, yeah, exactly.
Bandits. That's what I mean. Like, what kind of nutter goes, let's move to Alaska because there's a gold rush going on. I bet if we find some gold, we'd be minted. No, love, we'd be dead.
Exactly. So, not... that's why only 30,000 of the 100,000 people made it. Yeah.
Yeah,
made it.
But 100,000 of them thought it was a good idea.
Exactly. 70,000 people on the way there, like, has anyone thought of this? I mean, there's not even public transport. We've got to walk.
Morons.
Fucking hell. So, the community of Portlock was first established in 1786 with the arrival of the British captain Nathaniel Portlock. Now, that's where the town got its name from. It's located on the southern end of the Kenai Peninsula in south-central Alaska. Now, this gives it access to the Gulf of Alaska and to the Pacific Ocean, which has quite a lot of sea life, which is abundant there. They've got the whales, they've got fishing. The people that settled here could make quite a lot of money by trading or live a happy existence there just from the sea alone. Now, at the time it was settled, it was the only people who lived there were mostly the native Aleuts who were Russian. And at first it was little more than a collection of huts. It would not be until 1900 that any large-scale settlement would take place here, with a salmon cannery was established along the shore of the bay. That's how prevalent the salmon were. They built a factory which basically would whip them out the water, gut them, skin them, put them in a can, sell them on down the road.
I hate tinned salmon.
Yeah. The cannery... Yeah, I mean, tinned anything isn't really good. It's probably all a dolphin they're catching it as well. So, the cannery was a fairly big operation, finding a vast resource of fish in the unspoiled clear waters, and this brought in droves of people looking for work. And Portlock became an official town in 1921 with the opening of a post office. That's all you need to be in America to be an official town, is have a post office.
Have you sell a post office?
Yeah. Now, I'm going to call it a town from now on, but they only had 30 people living there. But by American standards, if you've got a post office, you're a town. So we'd call it a hamlet, I suppose, maybe a village, but
I don't even think it cuts village. It would definitely be hamlet.
Yeah, that's just the way they roll. So that was in 1921. Yet just 30 years later, the town and all its wooden houses were left empty and abandoned. The issue started in 1920s. Now, the vagueness of the dates is a recurring theme here, but don't let anyone tell you this never happened, because it is. So in the 1920s, Albert Petka was hunting with his dogs just outside the town. He apparently came across a large unknown animal which his dogs chased off, but not before the animal struck Petka with a fatal blow. Now, I assume that he managed to get back to the town, or rescuers came to him to tell his story before the blow actually killed him. Otherwise, them dogs need to be in fucking Hollywood, because if they told
the whole story,
that
with the torch under their chins, like, and then the fatal blow came.
Yeah, I mean,
so do you think maybe though it could have been a bear? Oh, thanks. It could have been a bear, but maybe the guy was just like too ashamed to go, I was wiped out by a bear, so he was like, it was this big thing, a monster. And so the dogs are like going, Weren't it a bear? It was only a baby one as well. Wasn't it? It was a real little one as well. Like, shh, let him have his moment. Yeah. It has killed me, and now I die.
So this is the thing, and then maybe we'll talk about what it may have been a little bit later on. But he claims, and as he was a hunter, he should know the difference between a bear and, if you're taking someone's dying words, maybe take them as truth.
Yeah, but if he's a hunter, he should have known how to take out a bear before it took him out. So maybe he was embarrassed.
Or maybe it wasn't a bear and it was something unknown.
The dog sat there like he's full of shit.
Well, yeah. He's full of that. Well, that I've just done next to that tree.
The one dog's like, it was a bear. And the other one was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It was a goat.
I'm trying to give him some credit.
They just kicked him in the balls and his balls exploded and that was it. He was like, it was a monster.
By the 30s, things had gone from bad to worse, with several strange instances happening in and around the area. In 1931, Andrew Camlock went out logging and was found dead in a pool of blood. Now, this was caused by a massive head injury. Camlock's body was found 10 feet away from any of the logging equipment that he was said to be using, and a piece of the machinery was found with blood on it, and it was confirmed to have caused this injury. Now, the issue is that this piece of machinery couldn't be lifted by just one person.
No, but could it not have fallen on him? Like fallen off the machinery, hit him in the head, and then he's like, ow, 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 and then walked away from the machinery.
So, again, this
is not like me.
No, I know. I'm very surprised at this. I'm having to defend bullshit to you.
I appear to have been struck on the head.
So, and then one day, while out moose hunting, a group of hunters came across some strange, massive footprints. They were apparently over 18 inches long. Now, this...
Just working it out. That's not 18 inches, mate.
Shh.
That's what you like to believe. You tell everyone you've got an 18-inch cock,
Makes
mate.
me sleep at night.
That is 8 inches, okay? Add another 10 onto there, bro. That's probably 18 inches, yeah? No, that's 4, dude. Aww.
Anyway, so...
It's adorable.
These tracks... We don't like it when you call it that, by the way. Just FYI.
It's just you that has that problem.
You don't like
They don't call my other half 9-inch Nige for nothing.
Yeah. Don't like it when you call it tiny either, but you know. So these tracks seem to be stalking the same moose that they were. Now, after a while of following the tracks, they came across a blood-drenched scene, but no moose, and they were the same large tracks leading away into the mountains.
What shape were they? Foot-shaped or hoof-shaped or?
So apparently they were human-shaped, but they were 18 inches long, so like shacks walking around this fucking forest or something.
But what, like in the snow or in the mud?
In the snow.
Because... Okay, sorry, no, I'll just continue.
I'm fine. And around the same time, a gold prospector set out to do some digging in the area. Now, he never returned, and no sign was ever discovered of his body. Over the next few years, several hunters and gold prospectors would go missing, only for parts of them to be found floating in the bay later on.
Predation? A lot of bears.
Yeah.
A lot of big feet as well, really.
Yeah.
Is that the plural for Bigfoot?
I don't know, because I heard something today and someone said Bigfoot was the plural of Bigfoot, and that surely can't be right.
I mean, I wouldn't think so.
No,
if anything, it would be Bigfoots.
Yeah. I mean, even the plural of foot is feet.
It's feet,
so surely you'd be... Anyway.
Big feet sounds silly, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. But big feet.
Big
Load
feet.
of them big feet down that road. Don't go down there. You know, get stuck in the feet. So locals in the area started to whisper that Nantinak was wandering around the area. Now this was a half man, half beast, and this came from the local folklore. Now this was supposed to be, the local said he was stalking the area, ready to take anyone that had strayed away from the town's well-worn paths. Now there was also rumours that a woman in black was roaming around the cliffs that overlooked the town, and when spotted she would moan and wail, and then she'd disappear over the cliffs. Now, after all these shenanigans, the residents of Portlock moved out en masse, and the cannery factory was left without any workers. The owners of the factory obviously couldn't stand it being idle, so they begged the workers to come back, and they even hired armed guards to stand watch over the factory. The townsfolk came back and started to work in the factory, but then stuff started getting a lot weirder. In 1940, a hunter went out, and when they hadn't returned, a search and rescue group of locals were put together to scour the area. The group came across the hunter's mutilated body in a creek bed. The group identified that the body had been torn apart and left there, which is something that a bear couldn't or wouldn't do. They'd at least bury the meat and come back for it, because...
Or take it away to their den, maybe?
Exactly. But he was just apparently eviscerated and left on the ground.
What about if there was, like, if the bear had already killed something, and it was like, you've just got in my way, and I literally... like 5 Asda bags under each arm, like I can't carry no more, so you're just gonna have to stay there, I'll come back for you later. But then the people found him before the bear got back.
So, like, bears, especially in Arctic regions, if they
don't go to Asda, yes I know, but
well, yeah, I mean, there's no drive-throughs for them, but in Arctic regions they'll probably bury their stuff in the ice and snow, because then it'll preserve longer, and then they know they've got a cachet to come back to, so when times run lean, they've got at least 3 months lifespan on it if you put something in the freezer.
Bears. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what they're thinking. Like, they would either buried it, there'd be nothing there, or they would have buried it and they would have found berry marks, but it was just left there.
Well, there will have been Native Americans in and around the area, wouldn't there?
Yes,
presumably. Yeah.
Yeah,
Could
yeah.
it not have been a Native American that was trying, like a Native American tribe maybe that was trying to scare them out of the area?
No. So at the moment, this Portlock at this time was, the Russian Aleuts are basically Native Americans. They live on the islands, the Aleut Islands around Alaska.
Well, what if it's a different tribe?
But they all, yeah, maybe it could be. I'm not saying yes or no.
Make it look like a monster.
But because it's Alaska, it's not like the Native Americans of America, like Midwest Plains, where they're at war over hunting grounds. It's because hunting is so kind of sparse, they kind of get along with each other to try and all make it through.
Except maybe one tribe went, how about we don't get along with them to try and share the hunt? Maybe we just take it all of it. If we scare them all away, we get all the salmon.
Maybe there is a 7-foot cannibal tribe wandering around this area.
Why would they be 7 foot?
That's the thing from the Lovelock Caves. Is it the Lovelock Caves? The thing, anyway.
It could be a very smart, great, like, tribe of people that could be like, right, we know if we step in the snow barefoot, when the snow melts, it expands and makes our feet look big, like we're a big monster. We'll just keep chopping limbs off everybody we see that decides, hey, it's a great idea to go to the lake by myself. And we'll just leave their body parts there. We'll just pinch a guard now and again, and we'll make it look like it's like a bear attack, but everybody knows a bear wouldn't leave its food, so we'll make it look like it was a monster, and then guess what? We don't need your cannery, or maybe we'll just take over your cannery after you're gone, because you're not going to use it. All the salmon will be ours, all the meat will be ours, and you lot won't know any different because you'll think there's a monster prowling the area.
Could be. It could be. Maybe they invented snowshoes, and that's what they were wearing, and they look bigger than normal prints.
They don't need to. When you put your ordinary foot in the snow, when the snow starts to melt, it goes bigger. We've had this discussion with the goat footprints, that made it look that everyone was thinking it was the devil because they were like 6 foot or something. When the snow melts, it makes the prints look bigger.
Yeah.
Up here for thinking, Aunt. Down there for canning salmon.
You said
I'm just thinking of all the alternatives.
Indeed. So, shortly, and again very vaguely on dates after this incident, Tom Larson was fishing near the cannery when he came across a tall, hairy man smashing up the fish traps that were on the shore. Now, Tom ran home to get his rifle, and although the creature was nice enough to wait around until he came back, when Tom had it in his sights, the beast looked at him, and he felt a strange compulsion not to shoot it.
Because it was a bloke. Because that tribe that wanted the cannery were just like, Shaq, go down there and show them for you.
Exactly. Now, more bodies would turn up in the bay, and they'd be washed up on the shore from time to time. Some accounts claim that over the 20 odd years that this ran from 1920s to mid 1940s, 36 people had either gone missing or have been discovered brutalized. Now, there was only 31 people living in this village.
I was going to say that's really impressive for a town of 30 for 36 of them to be killed.
Yes, and over
super impressive.
20 years, that's not even a generation to spawn. So, something may be going on with the math.
That's impressive.
Here. Now, the town's residents started to leave en masse and relocate to villages on the opposite side of the peninsula. And by 1951, even the post office was closed down and Portlock was a ghost town. Now, the rumours didn't stop there, though. In 1973, 3 hunters took shelter there during a 3-day storm and claimed that each night something walked around their tent. They said it was bipedal. And then in 1990, an Anchorage paramedic was called out to aid a 70-year-old native who had suffered a heart attack, but he was incarcerated in the Eagle River Jail north of the city. While treating the man, the paramedic happened to mention he had hunted in the area of Portlock, and the elderly man suddenly sat up, grabbed the medic by the shirt and asked, "Did it bother you? Did you see it?" So...
Why didn't the medic go, you got to be a bit more specific, dude?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only tale we've got. And he is in prison, and he is 70 years old, so,
Not exactly a reliable witness.
Yeah. Now, we can go over this piece by piece, but obviously it's not a fucking Bigfoot, is it really, as much as you want to think?
I started watching the TV show and some weird things happened to them, but weird things happened to the dudes on Skinwalker Ranch, and I was all on board with that show until I was like, this is bullshit.
So, yeah.
I believe something weird is going on at Skinwalker Ranch, but not because of that show. That show made me think Skinwalker Ranch might actually be nothing.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, so the hunting with his dogs, the Albert Petka thing. Yeah, bear. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
His dogs were scared. He got a whack. They just came across a bear. He got twatted in the chest. The dogs.
Of course, the dogs were scared. It's a fucking bear.
Yeah. That easily explained. Albert Camlook, the machinery again. Yeah, it just twatted him in the head. Do you know what I mean? And then while he was going, Am I bleeding? I don't know. And then walked off and then
Yeah.
passed out 10 yards away. It's not hard to do.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And even,
Yes.
even you can get knocked out, but you can still walk away, if you know what I mean. Like, it's shock and
Stumble
adrenaline.
away, don't you? Yeah.
Shock and adrenaline do so much to you that they don't even know. And in the 30s, they're not going to know about that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, like where did the story of Nantinuk come from?
So that is just like the Skinwalker. You remember so we talked about the Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
So the Wendigo is a Canadian First Nation. It's ingrained into them. Like the Bigfoot is ingrained into the Native American people. But we covered the trial of Swift Runner, who said, yeah, I ate my family because I'm a Wendigo, not because it was a really bad winter and I was hungry, honestly.
I mean, yeah, I sympathise with the Donner Party. Probably depending on, I mean, if it was a bunch of skanky people I was with, I'd be like, doesn't matter how hungry I am, I'm not eating that. But if it was like a relatively clean, fit person, I'd probably be like, well, desperate times and all that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
it's acceptable. But
I think I've gone on record before saying I'll eat any kind of meat. If you serve it up to me, I'll fucking eat it. If you put it in front of me, I'll eat it. Like, regardless.
Yeah. To be fair, probably a lot of people. Say if you, like Sweeney Todd style, just put it in a pie, people would eat it and they'd be like, "This is really good." Unless you're carving it off a corpse, you're probably gonna eat it. Like, I can't eat baby back ribs, right? Because it looks like the animal that I'm eating. I can't eat it. Give me a hamburger. All on board with that.
Yeah, pulled pork butty.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
If it doesn't look like the corpse of the thing that it belongs to, on board. I'm okay with that.
You mentioned Asda before. Horse lasagnas. There
no one was
you
any
go.
the wiser.
Exactly. You shoveled them down your faces, didn't you?
And why is that any different than the people that have pet cows?
Exactly.
Yeah, dairy farmers get attached to their cows. They treat them like pets. It's exactly the same thing, you know? But no, I'm kind of thinking, like, there's always, like, behind a story that is as old as, like, the Nantinuk story, I always think there's, like, a tiny grain of, like, Native American truth kind of thing.
Without
so maybe there could be something.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, right. Traveling through Brazil is fucking harrowing, right? It takes hours to get anywhere. 8 hours.
And they don't even know what you mean when you ask for Sprite.
Exactly. But it, like, takes... So, I must have been sat in a bus for over a day. And between then, I've seen vast expanses of forests and shit that have only a little bit of civilization in it. So you see all these forests and no one knows what is out there. So maybe it's the vagueness of not knowing what is out there. This is where these stories come from. But maybe there is something out there as well. Yeah. Do you know?
But using Brazil as an example, like, you look at the stories from, like, your channels like Wartime Stories, which is the sister channel of Bedtime Stories. Actually, Wartime Stories I prefer to Bedtime Stories. It's really, really good. And there's stories from, like, soldiers, hardened soldiers, that swear down they've seen, like, basically, they haven't said the name, but basically Titan Aboa in the jungles of Vietnam and Brazil, and, you know, and they've seen, like rock apes and things like that. Like, there's got to be some things we haven't explored everywhere. There's got to be some things that for that many for seasons. I know there's PTSD and I know that kind of thing, but for that many people to witness the same thing and swear down, risking their entire career and their status and being thrown out of the army because they're being told they're batshit crazy to say, I definitely saw this. That's gotta mean something, right?
Yeah, exactly, and with that as well, like one of the things that I listened to for this was like, oh, maybe the hunters got confused about what they saw, but these guys are hunters. They're doing it for a living. They've been doing it since they're brought up in this life. Even in a moment of something's running at you, you can detach.
You're gonna know it's a bear.
You can detach yourself from it, and you know what's happening in front of you because you've done this situation so many times before. So I don't think saying, oh, the hunters, maybe they got confused about what they were seeing, or what, like with the prints, they were 18 inches long. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were like 12 inches. But there was one saying like, oh, maybe they got confused about what a bear like pad looks like in relation to a human pad. And it's like, no hunter is ever going to make that mistake. Like, no soldier is ever going to make the mistake of being in a combat situation and going friend or foe kind of thing. So
if they came back and said, look, I saw some weird shit, like you kind of have to take them. If it's not a case of like the dude that quite clearly got wiped out by a bear and was too embarrassed to admit it, the other hunters that would come back and they'd be like, we saw something weird in the forest. Like, if it was a bear, there's more than one of them, they just would have shot at it.
Exactly.
And it would have ran off.
I mean, the thing is as well, at that time it was 1930s, 1940s. What? There's no social media. There's no clout they're getting for it. Like,
no.
I can't.
And if you're a hunter, presumably you've seen a bear before.
Exactly, and that's your reputation that you're staking on the line. You're not going to come back and go, yeah, the body was just everywhere. That being said, like, the reason this can kind of be all explained away is that you can't really blame it on a Bigfoot-esque creature because they only really got going after the Patterson-Gimlin film in 1967. Like, that's nearly 20 years after the abandonment Portlock. Now, there's Wendigos, obviously we've talked about them, skin changes and stuff like that. And these are the indigenous people's folklore. But, given the word for Bigfoot in the modern Yupik dictionary is Arulaka, now that's defined as a legendary monster with 3 toes on each foot and 6 fingers on each hand. They already kind of had a definition of this monster, of what it was. So they already knew what it was. So maybe the white man came across this word and then just put 2 and 2 together and came up with 5. With that, but for it being a Bigfoot, I can't agree. That chased them off from the town. No, it didn't.
I don't think there's anything on record. Like, I mean, I know you're a Bigfootier. I just made that up. I've coined that. You can keep it.
We're going with that.
You're a Bigfootier. It's like a mouseketeer, but cooler.
Yeah.
I am not a Bigfootier. I don't believe in Bigfoot, but I don't think there's been any, like, Dave is obsessed with Bigfoot, so we watch all the Bigfoot TV shows. I don't think there's been an incident on record where a Bigfoot has injured or hurt or attacked a person. Just maybe scared them off by stalking their camp, or howled at them, or whatever, or give them a look, or just came in and smelled like wet dog.
Yeah.
Never, no, it doesn't. I don't think there's been any record of a Bigfoot attacking a person.
No. And if you go on what other people have said, they're just like shenanigans. Do you know what I mean? They're just like throwing shit at you and scaring you out of their territory just so they can go about their life.
Yeah.
So it's not that. The most important thing, and this is something that all these programs miss out on, like the Alaskan Bigfoot and this, all these fucking Zach Baggins shit miss out on, is that the Alaska Route 1 was opened in 1948. Now, this was a 546-mile long highway that ran from Tok, and it took in Anchorage, the state capital, and ended in Homer, just 40 miles away from Portlock on the other side of the peninsula. Now, this meant that the locals didn't need to ship their produce by boat over the Gulf of Alaska with dangerous tides, dangerous weather conditions. They had a direct route to other major towns. The capital of the state was on this route, and they had access to Canada. Now, they just all moved there and started fishing there, earning a wage there, because the Tok took away what they could provide. Do you know what I mean? So they weren't gonna get, and this is the thing. This is the thing that, like, Alaskan Killer and Bilbo Baggins Productions, they disingenuously miss these things out because they want to sell a product, and I get it. I understand it, but with all the expanses on land, and we will talk about it, like, because we are going to cover Z, the Percy Fawcett. We are going to cover that and the new explorers. Even though we think we've explored all of the world, there are still massive tracts of land that we haven't explored, and we don't know what's going on in there. Now, there's loads of abandoned villages in Alaska and probably thousands in North America. Now, a lot of them have a simple explanation, like this one. They moved, there was a road built, mining towns that have run out of resources, natural disasters, major facilities like schools, hospitals have been moved out there to another area. So people have to follow that. It diverts people away from the area. Now, the native population do have a belief and their superstitions, and that's got to come from somewhere. It's an oral tradition that's been passed down from since before the white man even walked on that land. So they know something, they've seen something, but Portlock was never terrorised by a Bigfoot.
But it makes for a good story, and it could be used as a good tourism trap. Like, it could be something that, because all the dates are weird and stuff, like, maybe this is a more recent thing than we think, and they're trying to turn it into a bit of a tourist destination. I mean, like, let's face it, would The Exorcist have been quite as scary if it was a movie about a girl that had food poisoning? So,
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, there are Alaskan or abandoned towns out there that do have some kind of story like this running by its side, and they are tourist traps. People do go there, but Portlock, because of its where it is, it's not easy to get to.
Yeah,
even
have
though
that bit extra.
Yeah, so they need to make, if it was gonna be worth it, maybe they tried to build it up in the past and then realised as soon as this road got built in 1948 that shit, it's not going to work, so we need to do something else. But yeah, it wasn't, unfortunately, it wasn't really.
You don't know that for sure.
Of course not.
You don't know it for sure. We're just assuming.
Anything, and I will always, when we're talking about, like, things that, or animals' nature that are undiscovered, we've not discovered. We know more about the moon than we do the deep oceans. And look, Ricky Gervais quote: "We've got the octopus." Do you know what I mean? If you describe the octopus to someone, they'd think you're mental. It's got 9 brains, 2 stomachs, a beak, and it can change colour. Like, that's like some chimera shit. It's like something from ancient Greek. But that's something that lives in the ocean.
And that's the thing, if you've got nothing to compare it to, like, say you did come face to face with Nantinuk, like, we don't actually know what it really looks like, per se. So
exactly.
It could look like something that we have never seen before, ever. And then how do you try and explain it? You just kind of mash things together that you have seen. Like, a giraffe was once described as a horse elephant. Like, can you imagine a horse elephant? That is just a bizarro thing you've ever seen. Like, no, you just can't picture it. But obviously, we know what a giraffe looks like.
Exactly.
Now.
I mean, yeah. If you're going to describe a unicorn and a giraffe to someone that's never seen them, the person that you describe, well, it's a horse with a horn on it, is going to go, well, that's a real animal, because there's no fucking, like, something that's what? It's got leopard print on it, it's got a 17-foot long neck, and it's got 4 legs? No, that doesn't exist.
But for all we know, like, when somebody had originally first said, hey, I saw a unicorn. But, I mean, and they were like, well, okay, what did it look like? Well, it was grey, it had 4 legs, and it had, like, a long snout thing and a horn here. Like, okay, we'll call it a unicorn. We know that it's a fucking rhinoceros. But if you look at a horse, it's grey. It could be a grey horse. It's got 4 legs and it's got a horn on its head, and thus the unicorn was born.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like,
exactly. It all depends who you're describing it to, what artistic thing, like you, from what you're
your
thinking.
mind creates.
Exactly. What you're thinking, no one else can see what you're thinking, so you have to describe it, and then that's where it gets lost in the, like, Chinese whispers kind of thing. So things deviate from things. But yeah, Portlock was an interesting thing, but I don't believe for a fact.
And you can still go.
Yeah, you can because that Alaskan.
Not easy to get to.
What is it?
Alaskan Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Yeah. So that's the series on Discovery, but yeah, I mean, maybe there is something up there. Maybe not. But who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. And on that bombshell, this has been the MO podcast with me, Consummation Sant.
And me, Atreya.
And we shall see you all next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The MO podcast. The MO podcast. The MO podcast. The MO podcast.